MagicQ version 1.9.8.3 stable has now been released. With our new stable, brings in 39 new features, 101 changes, and 154 enhancements to existing features of MagicQ over the last stable, so over from our 1.9.7.4 stable. You can download this now for all current consoles and PC systems. And what's in it? Well, we're going to go through some of my top changes in this version. I don't have time in this video to cover all of the changes, but I'm going to go through a few highlights. First off, our Genetics 10-scene contact is now supported in the new stable. If you've not come across a 10-scene contact, it connects via a 10-scene protocol, so any product that has a 10-scene port, you can daisy chain up to 10 of these together. These can be used like a 10-scene wall plate, but they can also provide you 10 open-close contact triggers into MagicQ. If I jump into MagicQ here, you can configure them in the automation window, which means I can have up to 50 of them if I have 5 10-scene ports using gateways or something, each to then give me 50 times 10 triggers into MagicQ, which I can do automations to do things like when a trigger is turned on and off, activate and execute a playback, things like that. So there you go, 10-scene contact. The next thing, let's bring down this playback here, a little spoiler, bounce effect. The one you've been waiting for, bounce effects are now in stable. So I've got an effect here running on playback 6. If I include it into the programmer and open up my programmer window, you can see I've got a dim chase running. We've added the new directions for forward bounce, backward bounce, in and out bounces. So if I change this to an in bounce, you can see it'll do exactly that there. So bounce effects, they are now in the latest MagicQ stable. Other things there with effect, if I look on my playbacks here, if I release this playback here, one-shot effects. MagicQ's done one-shot effects for a while, or many years, which is when I run an effect, it just runs once and then stops. We've added some options, so you can now have a 2-shot effect, it runs twice and stops. Or you can have a 3-shot effect or a 4-shot effect, so it runs now 4 times. Now if I include that effect into the programmer, like so, of course it will run again 4 times, now it's in the programmer and then stop. But you've got your one-shot column here, which dictates how many times that effect runs. Chunks were added to MagicQ a little while ago. Now we assume you're using group queues at this point, so in setup, view settings, queue storage, group queues preferred, group queues is on. And what I could do, here's one I've made earlier. I've just got a basic dimmer effect, so if I include that into the programmer, and if I go to my programmer window, you can see my segments here has changed to chunks. Now, how do I get chunks on? Well, normally segments, if I wind that down to 0 here, segments normally allows me to split the effect. So segments of 2, you can see it pairs 2s or 3s of my lights together here. If I hold the shift key down, I'm holding shift on my PC keyboard here, you can see it turns to effects chunks. I don't actually have to do anything more than that at the moment, but you can see as I change that, a little bit sensitive on my mouse there, jumped up a little bit, didn't I? Let's change that chunks and let's go to 2s there. There you go. So I'm in 2 chunks there. You can see it split the effect in 2. Now, of course, you might say, well, what's the difference just using parts or segmenting? Sorry, not using normal segments and going into, I've got 12 lights, segments of 6, for example. Well, the big difference there is this is a group-based effect. Okay, it's based on group 4. If I clear off my program and run it here, I set the chunks to 3 in this queue here. Now it's a group effect, rather than it just being segments of 6, or in my case here, segments of 4 now. And now, of course, if I was to change the number of lights in the group and I wasn't using segments, it would screw up my effect. Now, of course, by using segments, what I can do is, here's one I made earlier, it's based on group 4, is I can update the number of lights in that group to, instead of 12 to 8 lights, and you can now see the effect updated. And I had my chunk set to 3, so it's taken the new number, which is 8. Well, obviously 8 isn't divisible by 3 directly, so I've got a 3, a 3, and a 2, because that's how we can make 8 up. And you can see it's automatically updated that effect into 3 different chunks for me. If I now go and just put all 12 spots back into that, into group 4 here, and yes, you can see it's updated the effect completely live. I don't have to re-update the effect or anything there. So there's some effect updates in the new 1.9.8 stable. Another thing for you in our audio timeline window. So I'm going to go and select playback 8 and I'm going to open up my timeline. In the timeline window, we've had beat grids for a little while. If I go view markers here, view markers, allows me to put markers on, there's nothing new there. But with beat grids, you have the auto grids, which I can hit generate, and it will then go through or look at my audio file here, and it will generate an automatic beat grid show me beats and bars like so, based on the waveform we have here. Now one of your requests is to do manual beat grid. So if I go into manual mode here, you can see I've got a manual beat grid dropped in on this timeline. What if I zoom out on the timeline here? I take my end point up to say there, and I take my start point to there. You can already see it. I've got some different value beat grids going on here. So I can choose a BPM/YC encoder like so. So I'm going to set the BPM there. And then I can hit my insert button there, and it will drop a new beat grid in based on that BPM between those two markers. So I can have beat grids of different BPMs across my single timeline now. So a nice change to the timeline window. Now big change for MagicQ consoles. So our MQ70, our MQ250M, and their MQ500M and M Plus consoles, you now have control of the individual network ports on those consoles. For example, an MQ500M Plus has got 4 network ports on, plus a control net port if you're using a USB network adapter, plus the wireless adapter for the Wi-Fi. So actually there's 6 different essentially ports you can use. You can now individually configure these. More useful with the 4 ports on the back of the console. More and more we get requested for you being able to plug into, say, a building network to use the wireless access points in the network and have a separate dedicated lighting network where you don't want to be broadcasting ArtNet or lighting data over the network you're connecting to in the building. The IT team tend to get pretty unhappy if you start broadcasting ArtNet around. So what we can do, if I jump to MagicQ here, in your setup, net manager window, normally you sit in CamNet, but there's a new window here called View Net Ports. I'm on a PC, so it only has 2 network interfaces enabled right now. If you're on a 500M or a 70 or a 250, of course, you'll see all of the ports available to you here. Is you can go in and individually set IP addresses and subnets per port on the console. If you don't set anything in here, we'll just use the main IP address in Setup, View Settings, Network. And you can see I can set individually the IP address and subnet, and I can, by using universe zones, set which universes come out of a port. So maybe I choose that I want universes 1 to 10 out of one port, universes whatever out of another. So what this does is it uses, in my Setup DMX.io window, we have this zone column here, and I could say these are universe zone 1, these are universe zone 2, and these are universe zone 3. And you can mix. Okay, I could say actually universe zone 2 sits on these universes. Things don't have to be in order. So I can go 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, etc. there. I can go back to Net Manager, View Net Ports, and I can now choose and say, okay, zone 1 comes out of this port, zone 2 comes out of this port. I haven't got this properly configured on my network right here, but if I was on a 500, you can choose the zone to come out of the port. Or you can actually say, okay, well, I'm going to set this to say zone 10 that doesn't have anything. So there's no lighting data coming out of that port. And then you can choose remote protocols. So you could say, actually, I only want to allow remote control. I don't want to give CamNet. I don't want to give 10 scene trackers OSC or something. Maybe you want to turn OSC off. You want someone to have remote control, but not be able to send third-party protocols in. So you have that per port, which you can now limit on the system. So very powerful in our 1.9.8 stable. Also added in our 1.9.8 stable is we've included the latest genetics node firmware. So genetics 3.4 firmware is released, adds in some new features for the nodes and particularly the 10-scene store, things like contact trigger priority. So that's now available in the stable. And finally, GDTF and MVR. The GDTF and MVR importers have both been updated to the latest DIN spec for those respectively. So do find 1.9.8.3 stable on our website. You can find the full change notes showing all of the changes, new features, enhancements in there. Download it now for the Camsys website, and we look forward to hearing your feedback on this new version.